What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? Awesome panel this week. All newcomers, first timers to the show. So very excited to have them all. We'll do intros momentarily, but I hope you're all having a good week. It seems that the inverse Kramer indicator was as accurate as ever. He was saying that things were going to go sideways. And so obviously the opposite had to happen, at least for a day. Anyways, guys, this is live. Anything can happen. So I, of course, defer to my friend Bill here.
Live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
If you have not already, please do like, subscribe, share. All those things help a ton getting this content in front of our eyeballs. Hit that little like button below the screen, share on whatever socials you're on, and of course, hit subscribe. Help me to my goal of 100K in 2024. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in our guests, let's take a quick look at where we are in the market right now. This is timechain.calendar.com, and simultaneously, I'm going to bring up the side chat. Everything that you say into the chat is now live for the world to see from here on in, for better or worse. Back to timechain.calendar.com. We're sitting at $41,948 per coin. A single US dollar will grab you 2,384 sats. In terms of fees, still low, 31 sats per byte. Next block, anytime 28 sats per byte. And in terms of Bitcoin mined, 19.61 million of them. That's 93.38% of the total supply. If you guys ever need assistance, you're going through the free tutorials online and you need some additional hand holding and maybe that one-on-one touch, you can reach out to me directly via my website and book me for one-on-one online education sessions. Shout out to sponsors of the show, HodlHodl.com. If you're buying Bitcoin and you have priorities in mind that include peer-to-peer trading, instant self-custody, no KYC, this is the place to be. You can sign up with just an email address. Once you're there, choose a currency, payment method, and an amount, and you can start viewing offers immediately. Links are down below. Of course, when you do get your hands on some Bitcoin, you're going to want to secure it with some of the best hardware on the market. I love CoinKite and everything they're doing. Cold Card, of course, my go-to hardware of choice. I have all their other goodies, and I pre-ordered the hell out of the upcoming Cold Card queue. If you want to do the same or grab anything else that they have to offer, head to coinkite.com. Use code BTC Sessions for a big discount at checkout. Backups, of course, are important as well. Cedar has one of the best designed and most robust options on the market today. I love them. Basically, steel backups to protect your seed from the elements, things like fire, water, and corrosion. They have a full backup starter set where you get everything you need to stamp your seed for 1 or 2 seeds. Should you ever need to swap them out, you can swap out the disks internally or add additional information like derivation paths or wallet names or whatever you see fit. Check the links down below for the best shipping options for you. Last couple here, shout out to Nunchuk for their assisted multi-sig Nunchuk program. This is basically a multi-sig you can set up on your mobile device with things like the tap signer, cold card, and plenty of other hardware options. When it is set up, you have full baked in inheritance planning, so your sats can get to your next of kin if anything should happen to you. And on top of that, the whole thing can be done no KYC. You don't need to give up your personal information to have it set up and work for you. And lastly, shout out to Start9, your sovereign computing solution. These guys have plug and play devices that can run your Bitcoin stack, your personal data, and plenty more. So more or less, you can plug it in. You can run Bitcoin Core, Lightning Node, mempool.space, files, passwords, photos, Nostr realizing clients, even some AI tools, all on your own server. They've got everything from entry level all the way up to what I'm running, which is the Start9 Server Pure. If you're looking at that one and want a discount, use the code BTC Sessions with a little plus sign at the end. That'll get you 18% off at start9.com. Anyways, guys, with that, let's bring in our panel and get to it. So very excited to welcome Rob and Daniel and Michelle. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking time out of your Friday evening. And before we dive into it, let's do a quick round of intros for anybody in the audience that may be unfamiliar with with who you are. So Rob, I'll toss it to you and I'll just ask, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, cheers. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to this. My name is Rob Wallace. I am the co-founder of Bitcoin News. Joined Bitcoin News at the beginning of 2023. And then since September, I've been running it with my fellow co-founder and I, Matt. And yeah, in the trenches every single day on Twitter, putting out articles, making videos, just completely consumed in Bitcoin content. And yeah, it's something that I love, and I was able to turn a passion of making videos and media and turn it into a career here in Bitcoin, even though I'm not that technical or that good at doing servers and all the tutorial stuff that you do, Ben. So yeah, I mean, in Bitcoin, if there's a will, there's a way, and that's why I'm here.
I love it. I love it. Well, welcome, man. I'm glad to have you. I'll toss it down the line to Daniel. Welcome. Thank you for joining the show. And can you let people know who you are and what you do?
So my name's Daniel Batten. I'm a technology investor, and our current fund just happens to be an infrastructure investment fund, which is specializing in investing in Bitcoin mining companies who use vented methane as their power source.
I love it. That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. And we'll toss it down the line one more time to Michelle. Michelle, can you let people know who you are and what you do?
Hey guys, I'm super excited to be here. I do Bitcoin. I also work in Bitcoin. I work in product development. Someone recently called me a whistleblower. I'm not sure yet if I deserve that title, but you may see me on Twitter hollering about global corruption. I had a career in tech startups and then got recruited to work in foreign direct investment, which is what led me to the whistleblowing. So awesome. I can now talk freely about that since I work full-time in Bitcoin.
Awesome. I love it. It sounds like we're going to have some interesting topics today. So that's great. Well, thank you all for being here. Again, I really appreciate you giving up some time on a Friday evening to come get bullish with me. There's always a good reason to be bullish in Bitcoin. And so everybody watching, anybody that's unfamiliar with the show, more or less, the flow is as such. First of all of us, the whole premise is each one of us comes with a reason for being bullish in and around Bitcoin. It could be anything, a personal experience, a new app or device, a news item, or really anything that happens to be floating our boat at that moment. The flow of the show is, number one, somebody's going to drop a reason for being bullish. Number two, altogether, we're going to discuss that reason. And number three, we'll rotate to the next person. So reason, riff, rotate, pretty simple. So I'm going to get us started today. I got a little rant and I think relatively brief, but the reason I'm bullish this week is I guess I would label it the Bitcoin brain drain. And what I mean by that is when a person encounters Bitcoin and begins to understand the implications of it and all of the various things that it can have a hand in fixing and changing in the world, they can't help but want to get involved and don't want to just be a bystander watching it happen, but want to partake in the change and expedite that change. And so, I mean, I've seen it before, but the reason that it's come to the forefront of my mind this week is doing this channel, doing this show. I've basically been a one-man show since inception, since I started in 2016. And I kind of got to the point where I'm like, oh my God, I cannot keep up. And I need help in various areas. So for the first time, other than just like, you know, a little gig work here and there, I'm like, I need a person that's going to work with me and help me in various aspects. And so I for the first time, I put up a job posting, and I put up a job posting on, I'll show the website so everybody's familiar, but it's called bitcoinerjobs.com. And so I put a posting up. My first one actually was pretty vague. I hadn't really narrowed down exactly what I was looking for this particular role, of which there will be more postings on my behalf soon. But I was a little vague and I got a lot of responses. And so then actually Jeff Booth was kind enough to spend a little bit of time with me and teach me a little bit about how to better distill what I'm looking for, and gave me a good book recommendation. Nonetheless, I took down the previous posting and I put up a new, more refined one. And again, I got a ton of responses. In less than a week, I got 82 applications to help me with the channel, which blew my mind. The other thing that blew my mind about this, because I just honestly didn't expect so many people to apply in such a short period of time. But secondly, there was a wide array of people, but some of the people that applied, their credentials, I was like, what in the hell are you doing applying to help me with a YouTube channel? Like, just as an example, I had not one, not two, but 3 aerospace engineers that applied to help me with the channel. And whether or not that was a fit is immaterial. It's the fact that again, when people encounter Bitcoin and they get so excited about it and so passionate about it and what it can do, they're hungry to be a part of it. And this was, it opened my eyes to that, and the amount of passion. And there's, again, people that were applying that were effectively retired in some instances, like still busy and doing lots of things, but like have no need for additional income. And they're like, no, I need to dedicate my time and my life to this because it's important. And if what I saw from this one posting is just an inkling of what's happening globally, I mean, we're in for a treat, because there's some incredible people that are just chomping at the bit to help Bitcoin succeed in any way that they can. So that's why I'm bullish this week. That's why I'm excited. And I'm just going to kind of open it up to you guys in regards to, do you see the brain drain happening? And what are your thoughts on people kind of diving in and partaking in this Bitcoin revolution on a more meaningful, in a more meaningful way than just simply being a bystander and holding Bitcoin?
I'll hop on that one because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Bitcoiner jobs. In the January of last year, I saw a post looking for video editor for Bitcoin News, and I hopped on that and met Lee, the guy who was running Bitcoin News at the time, and we hit it off. We started doing some projects together, and I got more and more involved just as the days and weeks progressed. And since then, I've had the pleasure of adding people onto the team through Bitcoiner jobs and other postings and whatnot. And you do see it. People are so hungry. They want to be in Bitcoin. Once you get this bug, you can't get it out, you know? And so we've got a team around the world now, whether it's our editor in Iran, our graphic designer in Thailand, we've got a writer in Italy, we've got a writer in India, our Juan Galt is our podcast guy, our spaces guy, and he's in Colombia. So, I mean, this is a global revolution, and it is attracting some of the best talent that you can find anywhere. And another thing that helps is that, as you said, I mean, people are willing to take a discount from their regular pay in order to work towards something that is meaningful to them. And yeah, I've definitely found that. And yeah, just, I mean, of course, you know, working with Bitcoiners, they're some of the smartest, most talented people that you can find. So yeah, I mean, if you, Bitcoiner jobs is unbelievable. I highly recommend anybody try it out just to see the kind of talent you can attract, for sure.
I like the discount thing that you mentioned. It's low versus high time preference. People recognizing that even if I'm not like top tier right now and I just find a way in, it's going to make a meaningful impact, not only on myself, but also on the world down the line, I believe anyways. So yeah.
Everybody wants to work in Bitcoin.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's if you're into Bitcoin, you would very much like to be working in Bitcoin in a lot of instances, right? I don't know. What do you guys, Michelle, like personally, I mean, you came from a different world and you came into this one. So like, what was that transition like for you?
It's been really incredible. So I've been working as a product developer for like 9 months now. And it was really important to me to start working in Bitcoin so that I could start like going full tilt and being honest about what I'd been through. I was nervous about doing that and losing some of my consulting clients. So the job has really enabled me to speak. But everyone that I've met, that I work with, that I've met, has been incredible. I just tweeted, it might sound really stupid, but never in my life has everyone consistently spelled my last name correctly. So like you put out the post, about the stream, and it reminded me, like, I'm pretty sure that since I started working in Bitcoin, everybody spells my name correctly. Rob, got to meet Rob down at Adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador and sat down, spoke with him and Juan. They spelled my name correctly. And it's every time it happens, I'm like, oh, wow, these people are so smart. So I know it's a really silly example, but it like gets me excited every time I see my name.
Yeah, that's
extra
awesome.
E.
Yeah, you can't miss the extra E. Don't be too high type preference. Spell the whole thing, right? Daniel, what are your thoughts in and around the brain drain and kind of this need to inject yourself into the space?
Yeah, exactly the same experience as Rob and Michelle. And it's true whether it's paid Bitcoin jobs or whether it's voluntary Bitcoin jobs. And there's a whole lot of people around who are doing voluntary Bitcoin jobs. So they still have their regular jobs, but all their discretionary time is going into seeing how they can grow the Bitcoin ecosystem. They're spending time orange pilling people or collaborating on reports. I've got about 3 projects on the go right now, just like Rob, and they're all international. They're all with Bitcoiners. They're all with people that I've met on Twitter. And what's been amazing about them is that because you're not part of an organization where people have nothing in common apart from the fact they all want a paycheck, you're brought together by something which has much more currency and much more value that brings you all together, and that's you believe in a common mission. Mm-hmm. And so immediately the discretionary effort that you put in as a community goes up, your trust in each other goes up, and it takes ego out of the question because you're not doing it for ego, for self-aggrandizement. You're doing it by definition because you believe in something bigger than yourself. So I don't know if you've had this experience. I'd be interested to hear, but coming from a different industry and only coming recently in 2 years, I've never been part of any working community of people where I've been able to establish trust and move ahead fast with high caliber people anywhere near the speed that I have in the Bitcoin community. It's been phenomenal. And what it means is you can, everything's accelerated. Projects happen faster, trust gets generated faster, momentum's created faster. You can start new projects in parallel. And you just can't function that if you're not part of a movement which has inherent meaning.
Yeah. I mean, there's constantly new companies, new apps, new things to try. Like and this is a common theme amongst Bitcoiners, but it's impossible to keep up, not just like with the pace of development and what's kind of happening in the background, but just how many different companies and projects happen, whether it be, for profit or not for profit, or, humanitarian stuff on the mining front. There's so much going on. It's almost like you cannot be a jack of all trades in Bitcoin anymore. You kind of need to specialize at this point to really make a dent. So, and I think this is a huge opportunity for all that thirst for involvement as well. Like find a niche in Bitcoin that you're like, wow, I'm super interested in that, and then specialize and learn the hell out of that particular thing and become a key player in that realm. Like if you're not specializing and you're just kind of, I know about Bitcoin and all these different things. No, if you can specialize and you can combine perhaps an external skill and pair that with Bitcoin in some way that makes sense, I think that's where people really get that edge. And I love seeing this brain drain of people coming from all walks of life and then taking their knowledge and just funneling it into this space. And like you said, things happen so quickly because of it. Yeah.
I spent like 10 years working for different tech startups, and things happen so slowly and so bureaucratically, and then you find out there's different departments doing the same thing and there's no collaboration. And it's been amazing because that's not happening in Bitcoin. Like you said, things are actually happening, they're moving forward, you're hitting goals, and things are actually coming together. So
yeah, it's great to see. I love it. Well, either way, so
like the media is draining some of their top reporters because they're getting frustrated that they're not allowed to write positive articles about Bitcoin. Joe Nakamoto left his job in mainstream media, went to Cointelegraph. Now he's independent. Jamie Coots worked for Bloomberg Intelligence. Left there, is now doing his own independent stuff on Bitcoin, so that he has a voice, so he has an opportunity. And they're the people who were the smartest people there. They were hitting all their metrics and doing the best of anyone. So it is a real brain drain. It's not just people who happen to like Bitcoin. It's the top people who are leaving. And what I noticed from the outside is that people in the TradeFi world are very quick to dismiss anything that's written in any media that has the name Bitcoin associated as if it's inferior. But in fact, if you look at the quality of journalism, the opposite's true. The level of nuance, the level of attention to detail, spotting the extra E in the name Weekley. These things people look at. We're used to deep diving because the qualification is to get Bitcoin, you have to have done a deep dive. You have to be capable of independent research. You have to have looked at the details. And so I've certainly found that that's been my experience right across the sector, whether it's journalists, whether it's people in finance, whether it's mining companies, whether it's environmentalists. You're getting really top people, or scientists, or people who are writing publications who are coming to the sector, working with other people who are also equally smart, and that's where you create magic.
Yeah, it is a little bit of the, I will say Bitcoin is a little bit of definitely the bell curve meme. It's like orange coin good, number go up on the left side, and then also on the right side. But then in the middle, like all the reasons Bitcoin won't work is the kind of mid-tier, mid-wit type person. And I think some of the left side bell curve people get to kind of, almost because of the quality of people, just through osmosis, they can kind of leapfrog the midwit phase in a lot of instances, which is great. But yeah, it's to me, it seems to be attracting the right types of people in terms of the people that get it, took the time to understand it, and now want to stick around. Like if you take the time to understand it, you're clearly going to want to stick around, in my opinion. But regardless, I think at this point, I don't want to spend too much time on my topic, and I want to get to yours, guys. But thank you for entertaining my reason for being bullish this week. I will say to everybody that's watching, if you are looking to make your foray into the Bitcoin space and try and find employment, go to bitcoinerjobs.com. There's a lot of posts there. There's a ton of stuff. Like and I'll just maybe really quick show the website one last time, but you can go there and just scroll away, and there's a lot of companies hiring for a lot of different positions. And yeah, there's no shortage of positions there. And a lot of these are remote. A lot of them pay in Bitcoin, obviously. And so if you want to start earning Bitcoin, if you want to start working in the space, great place to go do it. And side note, will be, I'm going to figure out what I need for this position and get somebody in it. And then once I do that, in the coming weeks or so, I'll probably be posting again. But I do really appreciate everybody that jumped on that one so quickly. So anyways, we'll wrap that one up. Again, everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. Of course, smash that like button, give this a share if you get a chance. And we're going to do a rotation. And so I'm going to go to Rob next, and I'm going to queue you up with the same question everybody gets. Why are you bullish?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this for a couple of days, and then with the developments that happened on about, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday this week, it all came together for me. But it harkens back to a week ago, and that was Davos. right? 2024, the great elite meeting that happens in Switzerland once a year, where all the largest business magnates and politicians, they all gather together to have this elitist group to sort of set the agenda for the year, right? And especially during COVID in 2020, 2021, you felt sort of the power of this group, right? Became sort of very apparent, especially on social media, that this event was happening, and that the things that they decided there sort of did have an effect and were played out in the months following it. However, this year it was sort of the complete opposite. I mean, just the theme starting off, it was rebuilding trust, right? And you don't name your conference Rebuilding Trust unless you've lost it. Leading up into the conference, you had Andrew Ross Sorkin from CNBC. He tweeted out when he was about to board the plane, he said, "I'm headed to Davos. I know. Before you say it, it is a global cabal seeking profits for the elite. Let me say this. Is everyone there self-interested? Yes, emphatically yes. But I don't know anywhere else that you can put all these self-interested people representing countries, companies, and nonprofits in a room at one time and maybe, just maybe, find some common ground." So, I mean, he's apologizing before even arriving there, right? And then, of course, who stole the show was Javier Milei, Argentina's new president, who's, of course, a libertarian, all about freedom. And if you just look at the numbers of the views from his speech, everybody else, all these, I mean, there are some very famous people there, Sam Altman, plenty of people who have very large names. Their talks have like 10,000 views max on YouTube. Malay's has 465,000 on just the only one that they got that far. And of course, at the end of his speech, I mean, he calls out the people that had invited him there, right? He says, "I'd like to leave a message for all business people here and those who are not here in person but are following around the world. Do not be intimidated by the political caste or by parasites who live off the state. Do not surrender to a political class that only wants to stay in power and retain its privileges." So, I mean, for that to be the number one speech at Davos was pretty amazing. Followed by, of course, Bitcoiners' favorite banker, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan. He was on Squawk Box being interviewed by Andrew Ross Sorkin, and he was asked about Bitcoin, and he freaked out, right? He said, "I don't care. Please stop talking about this curse word. I think there's a chance that when we get the 20 million Bitcoins, Satoshi is going to come on there, laugh hysterically, and go quiet, and all Bitcoins are going to be erased." I mean, what? This guy's bank is an authorized participant. They're handling the share creation and sourcing the Bitcoin for these ETFs, and yet he goes and says these things that are just show a complete lack of research, right? And then just to tie it all together, following Davos, you had Jack Mallers on Yahoo Finance, and he was asked about what Jamie Dimon said. And they asked him, "We would love your thoughts about financial elites casting doubt on Bitcoin." And Jack Mallers' quote is, "What do I think about Jeffrey Epstein's banker being concerned that a distributed, decentralized, open public money could be used for bad things sitting on a ski resort in Davos? I don't really care." Right. And so just completely pivoting it, turning it on its head, and showing the world that this is it's become a parody of itself. Right. This global elite, those who project themselves as better than, as smarter than, who know what's right for the world, have really just have a lot of egg on their face now. People don't trust them. People don't believe it. And I mean, and then Walker took Jack Mallers' line and just ran with it with the memes. And I think one of the best ones he made was Epstein didn't bank himself, right? Epstein didn't bank himself. So Jamie Dimon getting the Epstein treatment. So yes, I think that was very bullish. Bitcoin is about self-sovereignty, personal freedom, not allowing others who are thousands of miles away decide what's best for you and your life and your finances. And just seeing the complete joke of what this multi-million-dollar conference turned into was good to see.
Yeah, I'd echo that sentiment. You can always tell who, which way the tides are going based on who's being the most defensive. And I think some of the quotes that you outlined there, again, like this is the name. What was the name they named this year's conference? what was it?
Rebuilding trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very, for those that have read the book, The Fourth Turning, that's very Fourth Turning-esque, right? Like a complete dissolution in trust in our institutions, right? And that's kind of what we see. It implies that based on a lot of these things. Again, you have one of the most recognizable journalists in mainstream media apologizing for attending and trying to qualify why he's even there. That's pretty interesting. I hadn't seen that or heard that, but yeah, it's been thrust in front of the public eye. And I mean, they kind of did it themselves. I mean, they had no shortage of grandiose events to really highlight how ridiculous it was that you had these people getting together that were kind of deciding the fate of everybody, or attempting to anyways. It was inevitable that there was going to be pushback. And again, with this coming together of, of people, the elites that do want to hold on to power, a lot of central bankers attending, it's a unique time where we actually have an alternative that can just run in parallel with it, regardless of how shaky the opposition's tracks are. We're kind of on the straight and narrow, and Bitcoin just continues. TikTok next block continues to function, and you can see it in people day to day. Like anybody that, a lot of people, a lot of my friends that maybe aren't in tune with Bitcoin, don't really understand it. All they see are the problems in the world, and Bitcoiners see them too. But I find Bitcoiners tend to be a lot more optimistic because we see a solution, and most people don't see a solution anywhere to be found. They don't see how things can be turned around, or they're hoping on, just somebody better to be in power, and it's basically a coin flip. Hopefully my guy gets in so that he can be the one to do things the way I like, as opposed to how about we just have rules without rulers, which is, I think, what we're kind of going for. So anyways, I'd love to hear Daniel and Michelle chime in on this topic as well.
Daniel.
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
I wanted to respond actually to what Operation Bitcoin said in the chat, because I've seen a lot of that. So I was super excited to see Millet talk, obviously, and also the president of the Heritage Foundation from the United States spoke and was sort of very critical of them. And I've gotten a lot of questions about this, and my initial thought is like, well, why are they letting them speak? Why are they letting everyone even criticize them? Because in the past, this is not something that they would even allow. They're normally like hyper focused on controlling the narrative. So I think that they know that they went too far with COVID lockdowns and all of the nonsense that we see everywhere. So to me, they're trying to present like a more balanced, we allow for criticism. There's a full conversation happening here. But I do think, to Operation Bitcoin's point, it's really important that we stay vigilant. And I am bullish on people continuing to push back on them and not allowing them to take it too far again. But again, I think it's really important that we stay vigilant and keep an eye out with the election coming in the United States and all of the protesters, all the farmers protesting around the world. I think they're not going to go down without a fight. And so we have to be prepared for kind of like one more battle to sort of confirm the pendulum swing back towards freedom.
Yeah. Daniel, I'll let you chime in here too. I got thoughts.
Yeah, what was interesting about Daryl Jamie's comments about Bitcoin, he really missed the mark by about 8 years, I'd say. Because the script goes, first you ignore them, then you ridicule them, then you fight them, and then we win. So we're at the stage of fight now. We've gone past ignoring. Different institutions tried that for a long time, didn't work. And then they started ridiculing. And then there was an interesting statistic I didn't know about, but there was a poll done by the ECB, the European Central Bank, where they asked the question, dangerous question to ask. Do you think that Bitcoin could become a valid form of currency? And they put it up on Twitter, and 75% said yes. And I was talking to some OGs in the Bitcoin community, and one in particular, an old Bitcoin miner, said, yeah, that was the point. Up until that point, they'd been ridiculing Bitcoin. After that, they started getting scared, and they started fighting stuff. And they started putting out professionally produced misinformation via all the different channels, including the ECB itself, but also other central banks. We started to see that become more common. So Jamie Dimon's comment was really, he was going back to that age of I can just ridicule it, and we're past that. You're going to look ridiculous yourself if you try to use ridicule as a strategy, because there's too much contrary evidence. And this whole line of it's used by criminals or as a tool of money laundering and all the usual attack vectors, they're starting to weaken. The arrowheads are starting to blunten, and they're bluntening because of fact. So a lot of the old attack vectors, it's not recognized by institutions, well, that's gone. A lot of the ESG arguments, they've actually gone now as well. We'll get into that later on. The money laundering argument, that's gone. And it's gone because we're seeing fact fighting FUD. So it was a bit of a throwback. It only served to make him look ridiculous. And I tweeted a while ago last year, I said an ESG attack on Bitcoin weakens the merits of ESG, not BTC. And it spread pretty well. And then one person left a comment, said, any attack vector on Bitcoin weakens the attacker, not Bitcoin. And I reflected on that. I thought, I think that's true. The only way to look, if you were trying to attack Bitcoin these days, the only way to do it really is high quality, professionally produced misinformation, stuff like the New York Times hit piece. That's the way to do it. You've got to create these new fake metrics to try to do it. You can't just get away with it from offhand comments. So that's a bull sign, because it's saying, it's acknowledging we're at stage 3 now. We're past the ignore stage. We're past the ridicule stage. Look how easy it was for Jack Mallers to just say, I don't even think about that. He's not even relevant anymore, because he doesn't have to engage with that level of knowledge and that level of inquiry into Bitcoin. So that's a very bullish signal.
We need more of that energy on every newscast when somebody asks, well, so-and-so said this about Bitcoin. That just the general, like, well, so who cares what that person thinks? Like, clearly they're directly incentivized not to understand Bitcoin. It's very clear that they don't. So, like, I don't care. I think seeing more of that and just outlining, well, I mean, that person's been wrong about Bitcoin for how many years now? Year after year after year. I think just a quick dismissal, it doesn't matter. That person doesn't matter, is great. And it really drives home the point. And the more people see that, and the more Bitcoin continues to exist and actually be used by people and be in the public eye, the more, you're right, the more those dismissals of Bitcoin itself become, it hurts you more than it hurts Bitcoin. You just look completely uninformed. You might have an anti-Bitcoin stance because of some reasons, which I would say are misinformed, but some people can maybe get away with that. But a Bitcoin doesn't matter, or Bitcoin is a scam, or Bitcoin will destroy the planet. I mean, it's a non-starter. It doesn't do anything to outline a high intellect for yourself. So, I don't know, Michelle, if you want to add anything before we kind of round up, but I'll defer to you if you have anything else.
How much time do we have?
Go ahead.
No, I think it's a great point by Rob. When I started working in the ecosystem, which was in 2016, I'd never even heard of the World Economic Forum. So obviously things have changed a lot since then. There's a lot of awareness has grown, and you need awareness in order to combat anything. So I am super excited about, the fact that everybody knows what it is and they have to apologize because they're attending. I think it's incredible.
I guess I'll throw one last question to Rob. What do you think what do you think Davos 2025 looks like? What kind of gems do you think we'll get out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Michelle's right in that there should be a healthy amount of skepticism. Like, why did they allow Malay to just go up there? He was introduced by Klaus Schwab, right? By Mr. Eat the Bugs. And then he goes and just completely just wrecks him in front of all of his people. I think there should be some healthy skepticism as to why they allowed some speakers to come and give these contrary points of view. But I do believe that, I mean, they've definitely shown in the past that they're monitoring social media, right? And they have to be aware that the sentiment has turned so far against them in the last couple of years. I don't know, maybe they try to make it less of a public affair, right? Maybe CNBC isn't there reporting live for a whole week next year, but I highly doubt you're going to stop the central bankers and the owners of the largest companies in the world from getting together once a year to sit and discuss what they want to do. So yeah. I think we'll see, but my guess would be less public is how they handle it.
Yeah. Part of me always wonders too, to the point of why would they let people like that speak? Part of me almost wonders, like, is there an intention of having somebody that is very much anti their agenda come and speak, and then as the IMF and BIS and all those entities tend to do, effectively just gutting an economy and a little, to a degree, sabotaging the best laid plans, in order to kind of point and say, see, this guy with all the crazy ideas, it just didn't work out for him. I always, the conspiracy theorists in me always thinks of things like that. Like, yeah, let's give this guy a platform.
Or they're just throwing us scraps, right? Or they're just saying, like, the conspiracy theorists are going to love this, just let them have their fun with the Malay speech. But yeah, I mean, you never really know.
We'll see. We'll see in 2025. You got your tickets? do you want? Yes. Yeah. You're a private jet or mine or both? No, both. Obviously, both.
We'll race.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that was a great topic. Thank you for bringing that up. We're gonna do another rotation here. Everybody in the chat, again, thank you for being here. Make sure you smash that little like button just below the screen and give this a share wherever you're watching from. But I'm gonna toss it to Michelle next, and I'm gonna cue you up. Same question. Why are you bullish?
All right. So I am bullish on merchant adoption.
Nice.
I gave a quote to our marketing team today on the announcement of our merchant point of sale system, which has been in beta testing for 3 or 4 months now. And I could not be more bullish on anything. I think we're right at that point where somebody on Twitter the other day posted the old commercial. I think it was at a Burger King. Somebody was trying to use a credit card and they were like, how do I do this? Is this ever going to work? I think that's like right where we are. But the demand is out there. People have been, calling nonstop. People are so excited. And when I say people, I mean, individuals running like side hustles, small business, mom and pop shops, like full spectrum, all the way up to, huge multi-million-dollar operations. We have conversations about real estate, car dealerships, things like this. So everybody up and down the spectrum is excited. I think in general, people, unless you're running a business and dealing with merchant solutions and merchant problems, not everybody's like keyed in on the challenges that are there, but they're really significant. And Bitcoin solves this. At a local level, Ben, I know you guys did the sats market at a local level. Obviously, transacting peer-to-peer is a fantastic solution. But the larger that your business gets, the more complicated things are. You need reporting, you need consumer-facing tools, you need all kinds of stuff. And there's so many problems that Bitcoin fixes. And I'm really excited to be part of, we're a small team and the amount of excitement that we've had is just incredible. So I'm super bullish on merchant adoption. It's coming. It has its challenges, no doubt, technically and regulatorily. But I think as adoption grows and the demand is more widespread, that will force regulation to sort of get in line and say, okay, we've got to kind of play ball.
Yeah. I also think, I love that you brought this up. I think the push for merchant adoption, you know, 8 years ago, in and around that time, 2014, 2015, 2016, I think that was premature. I think, and it was for the wrong, and I've said this in other shows, but I think it was also for the wrong reasons. It was like, oh, we just need to pester all of these businesses enough to accept Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin will just be accepted and it'll become a thing, and that'll be our path to hyper Bitcoinization. But what people didn't realize is the merchants that were accepting Bitcoin didn't give a shit. Like, they literally did not give a shit. They saw it as a marketing shtick of, oh, we're going to add this new thing and somehow that's going to bring us more customers. When if you actually stepped back and thought about it, it was like so few people owned Bitcoin at that point. And it would basically, they were banking on the idea that there'd be a load of new people that would say, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my dollars. I'm going to go buy Bitcoin. Then I'm going to use that Bitcoin to buy something at this merchant. And then that merchant is going to turn around and dump it for dollars. And that was effectively the flow of what did happen in most instances. And the merchants also didn't give a shit, because as soon as it turned into no additional customers, they were like, why bother training people to know how to do this? What, like, it's just too much of a pain. So then you had this slew of articles of like, oh, Microsoft no longer accepts Bitcoin. Oh, blah, blah, blah. No. So like we got like this mini high of like, oh, this person accepts Bitcoin. Nobody, like most people didn't use it at the time because there was no demand for it. And then we got the negative news as they just dropped it, which they didn't care about in the first place. Now I think it's different, because I think what you're getting is you're getting Bitcoiners that already do things, that already offer services and make different goods. And they're saying, I want the Bitcoin. How do I accept the Bitcoin so I can keep it? It's a complete inverse relationship in a lot of instances. And the people that are accepting Bitcoin, that are new to it, typically it's because it helps something. It helps a pain point that they were experiencing. Oh, I can't accept payments from this part of the world or whatever. There's a reason behind it, instead of just overeager Bitcoiners being incessant about it. Is there something underlying it this time around? Do you think so?
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it was too early. I think that Bitcoin had to prove as a store of value in order for this phase to come. And I think that's the transition that we're in. We've proved store of value. It's there. It's still relatively volatile, but even that, again, is people are starting to understand the volatility, and now we have the mode of transaction. And so there's challenges there, but I completely agree. I think it was too early until now, and now is the time.
Yeah, I'd agree. I want to toss it to the guys here and see their thoughts as well. If Rob or Daniel, if you want to dive in.
Yeah, I just got a question, Michelle. What do you think's changed? Why do you think now's the time?
I think, like I said, that store of value really needed to be proven first. Certainly the volatility is a concern for some merchants or individuals if they're still thinking in terms of dollars. And some of them do have to settle in dollars or in fiat because that's how they have to pay their bills. But once they understand that ultimately Bitcoin is the best store of value, then there's something that flips in the brain. And like Ben said, they want to earn in Bitcoin and then save as much of it as they can. They may settle to dollars to pay the bills that they have, but everything else remains in Bitcoin. And I think there's just, there's been so much education, like it or not. You have Wall Street entering the game, which to a lot of people provides legitimacy. And so they're paying attention. And as soon as they start paying attention, they get educated and they understand, you know, how valuable it is and what a fantastic resource it can be.
Oh, that's great. So you're noticing that the ETFs have really made a difference to merchant adoption, huh?
Yeah, it has. I know, you know, everybody has their opinions about it. And look, I would prefer for everyone to hold Bitcoin, you know, self-custody it. But all of those conversations aside, there really is just a huge percent of the population that doesn't have the time or the energy to go out and do a bunch of research. And in their head, you know, they see, oh, I can get Bitcoin from Fidelity. Must be legit, or at least more legitimate, you know.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic what you're doing, because it's so important. And at the moment, we only really have 3 cities in the world where there is basically it's ubiquitous, where all or almost all the merchants will have Bitcoin, or at least a lot of them will, and that's El Zonte and Madeira and Lugano.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege to go to Lugano last year and see what it was like being in a city where a lot of places, not every place, but a lot of places accept Bitcoin. So you can do everything you want to do. And if you go to a restaurant, it doesn't accept Bitcoin, you just go to one that does.
Sure.
And it makes a difference because you're able to vote using your sats. And it was an incredible experience. And but not only that, but it gave me an appreciation of just how incredibly valuable it could be, because traveling to a foreign country, trying to change exchanges, it sucks. It's messy, it's expensive, it takes a long time, you get fleeced at exchange bureaus. You end up with like I was in Switzerland, you end up with these Swiss francs, and they look beautiful, but they're useless when you're not in Switzerland. And it's like, what do I do with them? Do I donate them somewhere? There's no transparency about where that goes and how much actually gets the people in need. I'd rather give them to Satoshi Action or something. There's no opportunity to do that. So just being able to have a Lightning wallet and being able to spend Bitcoin with merchants in that locality is just so clearly a more frictionless way to interact. It's less hassle, and you just feel better because you're not getting fleeced on the exchange rates in between with people who add no value other than arbitrage your inconvenience. So
Absolutely.
I think it's great, and we need more people like you, because it's not just that you're removing friction, but as you say, you're educating at the same time, and those people, because they're merchants, they will educate other merchants, and that's how fire catches fire.
Absolutely. I got to give a shout out to Berlin in El Salvador. So you mentioned El Zonte, and for anybody that is not aware of the circular economy they're building in Berlin yet, if you're in El Salvador, visit El Zonte, but also go visit Berlin. Jethro's in the chat. We were there. I was there as recently as a few weeks ago, and they have over 100 merchants that are accepting Bitcoin there now. So these areas around the globe are growing, and like you said, fire creates fire, and there's a lot of fire that's bubbling up.
I love the first of all, I love that these kind of like bottom up things are happening more and more everywhere. Cause I mean, that's the crux of what makes Bitcoin work. Right. I was talking to Walker, probably a couple of months ago on it, but we got into that and said, like, you know, top down is nice because it gets roadblocks out of the way for you, but Bitcoin doesn't exist without bottom up, right? Like Satoshi didn't come along and ask the central banks and the world governments if they were cool with him making a competitor to nation state money. He just did it and let it run. And so same thing applies to, you can't just go into a place and say, oh yeah, do we have permission to have a parallel economy separate to the one that we all kind of live under in this particular country? No, it's the reason that El Salvador went the route they did is because of El Zonte, and that's why these bottom up small communities are so important. Is like you said, the fire that envelops the globe starts from a spark, and those sparks are happening everywhere, and I think that's a huge thing. So I'll toss it over to Rob to get his thoughts here too.
Yeah, well, I'll see your Berlin and raise you a Utiva, Costa Rica. Yes, so it's actually pretty interesting. I think this area in Costa Rica has the highest amount of merchants that accept Bitcoin per capita out of anywhere in the world. And I think that started from the grassroots, of course. There's a bunch of developers and Bitcoiners who just moved down there. Francis from Bull Bitcoin, he's been down there for a while now, and he helped that community develop. Another programmer, developer, he took the open source software from Galoy and their Bitcoin Beach wallet, and he made the Bitcoin Jungle wallet. So they have their own wallet there. So merchant adoption is just thriving there. Their farmers market, everybody accepts Bitcoin, and we've made some videos of people shopping there. So that's great. But in terms of merchant adoption in general, yeah, I've got plenty of things. So Orange Pill app, they just released a new feature this week where you can find all the merchants in your area. If you're looking for other Bitcoiners where you're at, well, now you can find other merchants just using the same app, Orange Pill app. Also, in just merchant adoption really isn't possible without instantaneous settlement, right? And so without the Lightning Network, you're not going to be standing around for 10, 20, 30 minutes waiting for your payment to be confirmed when you're paying for a beer. Speaking of paying for beer, the place that draws me to New York City the most is PubKey, right? Going there for a burger is unbelievable, but I mean, the fact that it's a Bitcoin place that accepts Bitcoin, that just gives me a reason to hop over to the city. And I think the last point is, before, as Ben was saying, it was Bitcoin accepted, right? But I think moving forward is going to be Bitcoin preferred, whereas the merchants are the ones, the productive people who provide the services, provide the goods, are going to say, I prefer to accept Bitcoin. I'll give you a discount. Again, the Bitcoin discount for being willing to pay me in Bitcoin. So I think those are going to be the main drivers.
I want to tag on to the Bitcoin preferred thing. So I started using, like I do one-on-ones where people book me for like an hour at a time. And one of the things that I started using for invoicing is Zaprite. And one of my favorite things about them, you can accept Bitcoin and you can accept fiat payments. But notice here in the little demo screen, it says it has a price and everything. And down below it says fiat premium. You can set a premium to anybody who wants to pay in fiat. And so what I was doing was, obviously I get some newcomers that are hiring me to learn about Bitcoin. So I have to have the option to pay in fiat. But I found that too many people were paying in fiat, and I don't want it. So what I ended up doing is I kept on bumping the premium until I saw people taking the time to be like, you know what, I am going to learn how to shift over and pay in Bitcoin. And it worked. And funny enough, that magic number for me was 20%. Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's significant.
It was significant. And some people they'll still pay it. But then if they do, I'm like, okay, I'll buy some extra Bitcoin with that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think that might be the future that we're going to see, before you just see nobody uses dollars anymore. There's a transition period. There's an incentive for you to pay in Bitcoin. And the thing that I love about how Zaprite did a premium for fiat versus a discount for Bitcoin is that the human brain, a lot of us are more likely to, if we perceive that we're losing something that we already have, we're more likely to act to prevent that than doing something extra to gain something that we never had in the first place. And so like an example is, if somebody lives in a home and they've never had a garage, then it's kind of like not a big deal for them. I've never had a garage. And so like, it's not something I can, and we have Canadian winters here and they're awful and all of that. But like, if you haven't had a garage, you're kind of like, I mean, whatever. But from what I hear, when somebody's like, oh yeah, we have a garage. As soon as we got a garage, anytime we move, the house has to have one now. And it's the mentality of, I can't lose something I already have. And the same is true with anything. Like if you're perceiving that you're losing something that you're used to, you're more likely to move to act to protect what you feel you're entitled to than to put in a bunch of effort to get something that you've never been used to in the first place. So I like the idea of phrasing it as, hey, it would have only cost you this much, but now I'm charging you extra because you've chosen to do this. And people don't like seeing that. They don't like seeing like, oh, it's not, oh, I get a discount. That's pleasant. It's, I have to pay how much extra to pay with dollars? Oh God, I should get some Bitcoin. So I love that approach.
That's great. That is the future, because there are so many hassles to fiat currency. People don't, you have chargebacks, you have disputes, you have fraud, you have, just this endless list of challenges. So
yeah, I'm probably going to get deplatformed for saying this, but because I just saw some people get deplatformed by Stripe like the past couple of weeks, but I had that as an option to pay in fiat because it's like one of the few ways that it's easy to do cross-border from Canada, like Canada, US.
Yeah.
And when I say easy to do, it's like one of the options, and Zaprite is integrating others, but it was just one that happened to work at the gate. But the problem was the first payment I got, immediately they're like, oh no, you can't withdraw that anytime soon. You're going to be waiting like 10 or 11 days or something. And then on top of that, they're like, and when you do, you get half. And then 21 days after that, you'll get the rest. And I was like, are you,
yeah,
do people do this? I can't believe anybody uses this. Anyway, so the long and the short of it is Stripe blows and Bitcoin is infinitely better. And I know that they don't like that. And my answer to them is go fuck yourselves. So that's the long and short of it. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. Yeah. Does anybody want to tag anything else on here in terms of merchant adoption, things that you've seen, things that you've liked? Any final thoughts in and around this?
I just think the fiat premium is a great idea, and we should all use that universally, because it's really, it's saying what is, which is it is an additional hassle to use this, and it's saying it's a legacy system now. It's like, if you're going to use a legacy system, it's going to be harder to get new installs. If you're moving to this new system, it'll be more frictionless for you. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I love it. And it's, again, the second you receive, you have control over your own money, and that's the number one driving factor in me kind of like being on a Bitcoin standard and having the vast majority of my income being Bitcoin is I receive it and I have it, and there's no such thing as somebody saying, no, you can't have all of it right now, maybe later, or maybe we'll shut down your, it's mine. And here it is. And nobody can tell me what to do with it. And I can decide what tools I use to be nimble in using it and what layers I use. But regardless, I'm the one in control. And I think that selling point is going to become more and more attractive to people, especially to the earlier topic in and around of what was the group that said, hey, this is when they get most dangerous, Operation Bitcoin. Yeah, to that point, I think we're still in for a fair amount of pushback. I think that's coming, but if you can be as self-sovereign as possible, then you'll be the most well-equipped to sidestep that pushback. So learn the tools while you can. Learn how to do things and live your life without permission. Be ungovernable. But with that, I'm going to continue. We're going to do another rotation. Again, shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you all for being here. I see I see everybody popping in there, but Beacon and Dave and Kendall popping in. Anyways, hi to all you guys. Thanks for being here. Again, smash that like, give this a share, but we're going to rotate. I'm going to toss it over to Daniel finally, and I'll cue you up with the same question. Why are you bullish?
Well, I'm going to look at the things that prevent Bitcoin from moving ahead fast. And the thing that stopped Bitcoin moving ahead fast, for the most part, has been FUD. the different various attack vectors and misinformation that comes in its numerous different forms that we're all well aware of. And what I was excited about in the last 3 weeks is that Bitcoiners have discovered a new tool to blunt the arrowhead of attack vectors. And that comes in the form of community notes. And you know where I'm going to go with this, don't you? But I want to start the story before we get to what happened last week. I want to start it because the story actually starts 3 weeks ago. And to give some context, so community notes, Bitcoiners are increasingly discovered that whilst it is a subset of the Venn diagram of a centralized social media platform, it does have some Bitcoin-like features to it. You have to do proof of work to become a community notes contributor. You have to show that you are able to objectively write and review notes. You can't just write any old rubbish. You've got to establish your credentials. It is a peer-to-peer system. It is not centralized. So Bitcoiners have started to gravitate towards it and see the power of it. And 3 weeks ago, we had some of the usual FUD, environmental FUD on this occasion from the New Scientists that came out that was citing some previously quadruply debunked research of our friend Alex de Vries, central bank employee, undisclosed conflict of interest about Bitcoin. And to start with, he got ratioed, and then he got community noted. And then the journalist disappeared from Twitter completely. Just disappeared. And there's numerous different theories about why this occurred. I won't go into them now. I haven't got the time. That's an interesting side note in itself. But that was like a wow moment. And then something interesting happened. The New Scientists thought it would be, I don't know who thought it would be a good idea, but they put the exact same tweet with the piece on Bitcoin the next day. And it got community noted again. And then the third day, they never do this. They never retweet the same news article 3 days in a row. They did the same thing again. They got community noted 3 times in a row. And then one of the comments below said, New Scientist, you do know that when you get consistently community noted, it's not too good for your presence in the Twitter algorithm. And that was the last time they republished it. So that was like a real Bitcoin free New Scientist FUD zero moment. And a lot of us who contributed to some of the ratio and gained a lot of satisfaction about that, because again, it was about, and it would have hurt them reputationally as well. It's what we were talking about before, that an attack vector on Bitcoin is actually going to weaken the attacker, and their reputation, not Bitcoin. Okay, so then that happened. And then the very next week, who was it who got community noted the next week? There was someone else. Oh, yes, that's right. It was a US academic who was talking about it being bad for the environment once again. Same script exactly. Ratioed, community noted, gone from Twitter. Just gone. And so that was 2 in a row. And then, of course, we had the creme de la creme this week when Elizabeth Warren puts out some of her usual misinformation about crypto, and she used the word crypto, so I'll use it too, being the preferred tool of financial criminals. And the community note she got was poetic, because the source that it used was a US Treasury report from 2022 on money laundering, which stated that fiat currency is the preferred instrument of financial criminals, not crypto. And it was just a very polite little note that said that it was completely objective. It could have been written by anyone. So it wasn't obviously a pro-Bitcoin tweet. It was, and how wonderful that this senator with 6 million Twitter followers, who in her mind is like, I don't get community noted. That's people like Donald Trump who get community noted, suddenly has had the experience, I think now 2 and maybe 3 times in a row. Now, this is big because she has a whole PR team who very carefully manuscript her messages to appear as this champion of being pro-choice and workers' rights to a community in Massachusetts. And then she's trumpeted as being this one who's safeguarding people against scams on Twitter. But now there's this whole community of people where it's like, and remember, we're in the fight stage of this engagement here, where a supply channel has been cut off, it's been severed. Where she no longer has the Twitter supply channel to be able to use to spread FUD about Bitcoin with impunity. So that's actually quite a huge win. And it has quite major consequences for anyone on the Twitter channel anyway, who chooses to serve misinformation about Bitcoins. And apart from that, it's just so wonderful to see a community note go up when you see some FUD, where I think for a long time, a lot of Bitcoiners have felt quite defenseless and just frustrated. Whereas now that frustration is turning into joy, because now we've got a power tool and we've discovered how to use it. And we're using it against the people who are spreading this misinformation. It's completely poetic. So
well, and the problem before too was that you could prevent people from commenting on your stuff. So you could have a massive audience and you could say that only people that I follow can reply to this and everything, but you can't undo that community note, as proven by New Scientists. They, again, like chef's kiss to the triple community note there. That was amazing. Like the hat trick for the community note. I can't, like, how do you top that? That's amazing. But again, like, I guess Liz Warren really, like, it was a tie game between her and New Scientists there. It was really something else to watch. But you're right. Like we're now at it's an interesting point in time where we were coming from a place where we had traditional media. We had basically, you turn on your TV at 6 o'clock and you get fed the news. And, that was just the news. That's just what happened. There wasn't a whole lot of questioning of whether that was factual or not. And then I think we're at the point where we're starting to grapple with and figure out the fact that we now have global immediate communication lines and that anybody can say anything. And so we saw kind of the crackdown on trying to control that top down. And all it takes, it's funny, all it takes up until, and Nostr is like an answer to that problem, but all it takes is one of those platforms to sidestep that, even for a period of time, to be like, hey, this, what you're seeing on this platform and this platform and this platform, all of a sudden looks very different to what you're seeing on this platform, because we're not submitting to those controls, at least for the time being. And again, centralized platforms like Twitter aren't necessarily the answer to it, but like right now it's shining a light on the fact that it's possible to have, even though it's social media and even though it's the internet, it's possible to have an entire platform try to control what you think, even if it's untrue. And, it very much changes the game when you can say, when an entire community can say, like, that's not correct, and add forced context to it if there's consensus around that needed context. And I think that Nostr is kind of that next iteration, because who knows, like right now, sure, there's been changes where we now have this juxtaposition of Twitter versus everything else and how they handle sharing of information. But that's not forever. Like you just get another bad CEO, or you get a change of the guard, or you get enough coercion and that could change. And so with something like Nostr, that's not really possible. And so my hope is that Nostr, something like it as a backbone, can help hedge against that eventuality, because I think it is an eventuality that again, further coercion and further attempts to control what people say, do, and think will be coming down the pipeline, because it's a divisive time that we're in. And I think Bitcoin's going to be front and center with that as well, because if anything challenges the current power structures, Bitcoin is it. Yeah, I think we're all in for a very interesting changing the guard over the years. But what a great reason to be bullish. Nothing makes me more bullish than Elizabeth Warren getting community noted. I had to post the, you know, the meme where the bald guy is like feeling his face. Oh, feels good. Like that, that was me.
Perfectly.
Yeah. So anyways, Michelle, if you want to chime in here, I don't know, were you equally stoked to see community notes hit these people?
Absolutely. I love it. Bitcoiners love the truth, and you know, being able to add the truth to the propaganda that they're putting out is absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Rob, I'm curious your thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of my job to be on Twitter a lot and to follow these things. And I mean, those 3 community notes on Elizabeth Warren, they happen within a month, right? I mean, the first one is December 19th when she calls out crypto companies for spending millions on building an army of defense and law enforcement officials to lobby against new rules. So, and then the next one, she says the SEC is wrong on the law and wrong on policy with respect to the Bitcoin ETF decisions. Well, no, the SEC acted in accordance to the new circumstances brought up by the judge in the Grayscale Investments case. So she just completely, and the last one, of course, where she says they're dodging sanctions. So, I mean, the fact that do you have no shame? Like, Senator, do you have no shame? Like, how can you do that 3 times in 1 month? And it's actually funny, when I was making that post, I was like, how can I find these? I know she did it so many times in the last 4 weeks. How can I find these quickly? I searched from Elizabeth Warren and included Bitcoin Pierre, because you know that in any ratio she gets, Pierre's going to be at the top of that list. And I mean, and that's, yeah. And I mean, before, Bitcoiners used to have fun staying poor chains and whatnot, but I think this is a much more effective way to let our voice be heard and to have some legitimacy when we clap back against this. I
hope Pierre has all of his ratios as framed tweets on his wall, because I do have a framed tweet. I'm excited. It seems like in relatively short order, this one will be very much relevant again. But Peter Schiff, this was in 2020, but for those Bitcoin bugs excited about Bitcoin's 4% rally in 2020, think about this. Gold is also up by about the same percentage this year, only with significantly less downside risk. If this is the best Bitcoin rally Bitcoin can muster, how will it ever hit 50K, let alone 1 million? What a great tweet that was.
Yeah, these things will be recorded for all of history, right? And so, yeah, and Twitter is great. It's definitely changed a lot since Elon took over, but we don't know how long we're going to have it, right? And so it is important to just, even if you're not a daily or hourly user of Nostr, just get used to it, right? It's got a little bit of a different feel, so start playing around with it, figure it out, see how it all works, and just be sure that you can still, there's a place to go in case the mainstream social medias do not allow us Bitcoiners to communicate as freely anymore.
Yeah. One thing that I'll say in and around Nostr and basically getting onto Nostr and like the ease with which you can do so. There's an app now that I think is probably the best onboarding experience for the average person that hasn't been exposed to Bitcoin. I tried it out the other day on my Android phone because they just updated it to have the same functionality as it had on Apple. But honestly, Primal is knocked it out of the park here. And the reason I say that is, you know, if you're a purist and you want to like link your own Lightning wallet and all that stuff to your Nostr profile, that is, you can still do that. But the default in this is open up the app, hit create account. It'll do it all for you. And then just natively in the app, linked to whether you're on iOS or Android, it'll just use your Google account or your iPhone, your Apple account. And if you hit the Zap button, it takes you to an integrated wallet, and it defaults to, I think it's $5. But you can just in the app, just hit buy, and it will get you sats. It will load it into an internal wallet right there and just load you up with $5 of sats. And it'll just come off whatever card is currently already associated with your app store. And so you get onboarded to decentralized social media, and you get your first experience of onboarding to Bitcoin and the Lightning Network in a few taps. And that internal wallet can be used for Zaps, obviously, but you can also just use it as a regular wallet and send to any external Lightning wallet anywhere. And so honestly, I was pretty floored when I tried it. And actually on the back end, it's Strike. Strike is the one doing the, like, it is a custodial experience, but of course it's $5. Like that's it, but the default is it's meant to be just topping up your tipping balance, but you can of course send it out. But yeah, it's Strike on the back end. They let you do a $5 buy, top up the sats in your wallet. You can use it however. It's pretty solid. And then if you graduate as a Bitcoiner, like you've learned how to do some transactions and Zaps and everything, then all this, you can switch it out. You can be like, actually, I'm going to go in the settings. I'm going to link Phoenix. And now I've got full self-custody because I know what I'm doing now, and I'm good to go. So it's honestly, I think it's kind of the thing that's needed for this seamless, easy onboarding to, again, hedge against, Elon's no longer there, allowing us to community note politicians. All of a sudden it doesn't really matter. It'll be like people saying, I don't care. What do you think about what somebody said on this social media platform where they can censor you? I don't know. I don't care. I don't think about that because I'm over here where they can't do that. I think that might be where we're headed. I hope. Anyways, we'll see.
I can't wait for that day.
Yeah. I hope. We'll see. It's tough. Network effects are a bitch. Yeah. Even I find myself, like what's the default? You use like the app where you get a million responses right away. Like right. You kind of gravitate to it's hard to break those habits. But I've got to say the experience with Primal has made it a lot more enjoyable and easier to access. Amethyst is really good. Damus is really good. But Primal seemed to have really knocked it out of the park from a newbie perspective, in my opinion anyways. So what I usually like to do at this point in the show is I'm going to start kind of rounding out, but at the very end, I like to do a quick round going around and basically ask any final thoughts that you want to get off your chest. And number two, a recommendation. And so what I mean by recommendation is it can take many different forms, but something you think people watching right now will find useful to them. And this could be, some personal advice. This could be a cool app or device to try. This could be, check out this news piece or this blog or this video that I watched, or really any general advice that you might have, something to point people towards, some resource, some book, whatever that they may find useful in their Bitcoin journey or something tangential to that. So I'll start us off so you guys can kind of stew with that first. But I think the thing that kind of hit home the most with me tonight is kind of the tying in of this swinging of the pendulum from kind of authoritarian to freedom back and forth. And I that's kind of the theme in general was in and around that. People preemptively apologizing for, associating with the powers that be, people opting out and saying, I don't want your top-down money. I want to accept and get on a Bitcoin standard as a merchant, as somebody creating value for others. And people rightfully putting people in their place when they try to attack Bitcoin with FUD, like the dissolution in the trust in our institutions seemed to be that underlying theme. And with that dissolution of trust, people begin to rely on themselves and their local communities more than people from afar telling us what to do. And I think that's a better place to be. I think if we can all do a better job focusing on the people immediately around us and building strong communities and relationships with people that we really care about, it results in a better world. So that was my main takeaway and my recommendation. And Rob, I'm glad you brought it up. I'm going to recommend, if you're not already on Orange Pill app, number one, get on Orange Pill app. But number two, if you're not listed as a merchant because they just dropped their merchants function, go sign up as a merchant and list yourself. I'm basically getting the local merchants that were part of the SAP market back in December to list themselves. And I'm going to be pushing that hard when we do it again in March. And go and list yourself, not just on Orange Pill app, but do it there, but also on bitcoinmap.org. Is it Bitcoin Map or BTC Map?
BTC Maps.
BTC Map
is the open source.
Yeah. btcmap.org and satmap.app is another one. And that one's more like regional. That one's more regional, and it's typically like if you offer a service but don't have a fixed address, that's kind of where SatMap comes in. And then Rob, I think was that Rob that dropped that? Oh no, that was Daniel. Did you? And what is this that I'm bringing up? Just so I know.
Oh no, that's
that's something else. Okay. Yeah. Cool. All good. Okay, cool. But yeah, go sign up as a merchant. You know, if you're a Bitcoiner and you're not currently working in Bitcoin, you already do stuff. You already offer goods and services. You already do something where you're earning money. Figure out how you can earn Bitcoin, because all of us would love to have more Bitcoin, right? You may as well make it known that you're willing to accept it and it's preferred. So I'll rotate over to Rob. We'll toss it to you. Any final thoughts, recommendations? Feel free to toss them out.
Harkening back to the beginning of the conversation, talking about people wanting to work in Bitcoin, wanting to contribute. I think one piece of advice that I have that sort of helped me get along my journey is proof of work, right? Bitcoiners care much less about qualifications than they do that you've actually put in the hours, put in the time, had the experience, and have a way to share that with the world, right? Mm-hmm. So, actually, at Bitcoin News, we just relaunched the site. It's got a fresh new look to it, a nice rebrand. And if you'd like to contribute, you can go over to the More tab up on top and click right there. Then you can do guest post, and boom. Scroll down, you'll get a few little instructions, but right there, that's how you can start contributing to Bitcoin. It's super simple. And we cover a lot of the things we talked about today. Like we just had an article on the Orange Pill app merchants feature. We just had an article this week about Daniel's latest report about sustainability in Bitcoin mining. So we cover a lot of the things that you hear about on a daily and weekly basis in Bitcoin. And if you've got a unique perspective, you've got a special story about yourself in Bitcoin, op-eds are totally welcome too. So please feel free to reach out and start building your portfolio with Bitcoin News.
Awesome. And I'm going to tag on to that. If you do write a story that is in the realm of like community, local merchant adoption, like events, all that kind of stuff, or in and around applications, devices, new technology stuff in and around Bitcoin, basically the half of the news that I cover when I do Simply Sessions with Nico on Thursdays, and you've contributed it here at Bitcoin News, let me know, reach out to me, shoot it over to me, and I may feature it in a Thursday show. So if, anytime there's something relevant that pops up that you think may apply, send it my way. And if it works, then I will try and incorporate it. Awesome. Well, sweet. I will toss it to Michelle. Any final thoughts, recommendations? Go ahead.
I think my single biggest recommendation would be find your local meetup. If you're not attending a local meetup, you have to do that. Same like theme of building your own network and the brain drain into Bitcoin. That's actually how I found the job that I have now, was at a local meetup, and get connected with people in your area, get to know people in real life. It can be very powerful.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you haven't, there's a lot of Bitcoiners that have never met another Bitcoiner.
Yeah. I'm
feel-
shocked about this. People say it all the time. Like, I'm here to like see people in real life at the big events,
Yeah.
and those are awesome. I'm bullish on those, but really meeting people that are local to you is going to be a lot more impactful on your life. And if there's not a local meetup, start one.
Mhm.
I think you'll be shocked at the number of people that show up. There are a lot more of us than most of us know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the best. It's the best thing. And again, earlier theme of the show, ground up is what makes things happen.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have something where you are, if not you, then who? Go start it. Could be the first 2 people in the room, right? Yeah.
You can put it on Orange Pill app. Put your
yeah.
meetup on Orange Pill app. They will come.
Yeah, exactly. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Daniel, I'll toss it to you. Final thoughts, recommendations.
Yeah, final thoughts is now's a time to be really proud of being a Bitcoiner. I think there was a time when people felt a little bit shy to be able to reveal it. And that's still true in some corridors, such as academic corridors. But increasingly, if you're a Bitcoin miner, be proud of it. If you're in an academic institute, you want to research Bitcoin, be proud of it. If you want to write about how Bitcoin is good for the environment, be proud of it. We know, because we've talked to people who work in the organizations who attack us, that they are not united. So whilst the message from the top might be anti-Bitcoin, there are plenty of people within Vanguard, within JP Morgan, who are saying, what is our leader doing? There are people in the Environmental Working Group on Sierra Club who are saying, what is our leadership doing? And when we fight FUD with fact, we ignite those people inside those disunified organizations to question or leave their organizations. Both are good. One creates brain drain and the other one creates internal change. And we've seen evidence of that. We know that there were, we hear anecdotally that there were thousands of people who left Vanguard. And we also heard from Jeff Booth that there were people who were apologetically on the phone saying, look, we're so sorry. We actually don't believe what is happening at Vanguard, but we've got no choice. Our hands are tied. What can we do? So we are on the right side of history, but we are also in a movement which is unified. And the organizations that sometimes we feel we're fighting against, they may be many times larger, have access to more resources, but they do not have that same common cause. And that's our advantage. That's the final thought I want to leave. And a very simple recommendation. As you know, I'm big on quantifying things. For me, it's not enough to claim that Bitcoin has some environmental benefits. It's like, show me the evidence, quantify it. And until you quantify it, you can't see it in focus. And I just discovered this about a week ago, there's a Twitter account who's taken that same approach to documenting the change in the media narrative towards Bitcoin. And they've come up with some objective metrics for being able to measure this. And they've developed an app, and I had to play with it last week, and it's actually really cool. And so I've just dropped, that was what that note was that I hit send on a little bit earlier and threw you off the send. But it's called BTC Perceptions, and it looks like it could be really valuable as a tool to be able to show what we know. And that is, there has been a shift in mainstream media, bit of a throwback during the whole reactionary period against the ETFs. But the long-term trend is it's getting, I would say, not more positive, but at least less negative in the mainstream. So again, while we don't care, it's also important, we know, to Bitcoin's normalization. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's very interesting. I was following them already, and I remember having seen them, but analytics on mainstream media coverage, that's
it's really cool. And whoever's behind it, they're pretty responsive. They asked me if I had any suggestions, and I had a couple, and they implemented it straight away. So that's what we want to see, people who are open to feedback and who can take it from the community and make things that are better for the community.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, I guess we'll round it out here. This was awesome. A really good conversation. Thank you all for being here. Everybody that's watching, everybody's handle is in the show notes. So give them all a follow. And from there, you'll be able to find everything else that they're working on. And I guess I'll just wrap up by saying thank you all for being here, and you're all welcome back anytime.
Great talking to you guys.
Great to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. All right. See you guys later.
Good night.
Night. All right. And everybody, thank you for being here as well. I appreciate you guys joining me on a Friday with everybody to get bullish. If you have not already, please do hit that like button just below the screen. Very important. It pleases those algorithmic gods and make sure that this gets thrust in front of more eyeballs. Again, really do go follow everybody that was on the show. They're all awesome, and everything that they're working on is top notch. So check them out. If you want to help the show in another way, again, share this everywhere. Subscribe if you're not. Help me on my quest to 100K. If you have not subscribed already, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors in these show notes. They're all down below. And then finally, there is a QR code up on the screen right now. If you need some help, maybe you're going through all the hundreds of hours of free tutorials on the channel, but there's something that's not quite working for you, and you need that one-on-one like active participation, kind of helping you along as you're figuring something out, you can scan that QR code. It'll take you to a spot where you can book me directly for one-on-one private sessions to help you get through pretty much anything in Bitcoin. With that, I'm out. Oh, and if you're listening on the pod afterwards and you don't see the QR code, it's just btcsessions.ca. Anyways, with that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
HodlHodl the Bitcoin.